Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about stress. Over the last few weeks, I'd say I've received quite a lot of DMs, quite a lot of messages, and it keeps coming up. So I wanted to dedicate this live to talking about it. And yeah, I want to just spend the next 30 minutes talking about why stress is the biggest killer. What does that actually mean? You hear a lot of people talk about it. You hear a lot of people say it. I'm stressed and I've got this issue. Talking about when people like even dying of heartbreak and things like that. So really breaking down what is stress hormonally, what does it actually drive in your body, why does it cause these chronic issues, and getting behind the bolt so we can really see what's going on here and why we should really prioritize managing our stress levels. And then at the end, as always, I'll do a bit of Q&A as well. And that'll probably be in about 25 minutes time once I've gone through. And as always, I'll also be talking about the herbs that can help as well. Jade will be back in a minute and she'll be going through the chat like normal as well. And she will be responding to any questions just before I get into it. So yeah, pretty much every herb I'll be talking about today, at least before the Q&A, they'll be available on the website. So feel free to, this will be recorded, so feel free to jump off, grab any of the herbs I'm talking about from the website. That link is in the bio. And then if you've got any questions, put them down in the comments and I'll get to it in the Q&A. But cool. So what is stress and why is it important? So to really understand this point, we need to go back to why stress was in our evolutionary makeup essentially. So what stress is, it's a mix of cortisol and adrenaline. And why do we have those hormones? Well, it's because when we were feast and famine type existence, it was fight or flight. You don't know where that next meal is coming from. So when you are producing that cortisol, it is a jolt of energy to keep you going because you don't know when that next meal is coming from. Obviously, nowadays, we know when our next meal is coming from for the most part. So these hormones they still have that evolutionary basis, but they serve a different function. So adrenaline is basically cortisol's cofactor, which again goes to your system. It gives you energy, it raises your heartbeat, and it's your emergency reserves essentially. But it does have a bit of a dark side. It does have a downside. So it's not just like we should be trying to fuel ourselves on adrenaline all the time. So why is cortisol? How does cortisol contribute to some of the biggest issues in society? So we can start with diabetes and break that down. So cortisol and diabetes, and when I say cortisol, we can use that interchangeably with the term stress, which is what most people will refer to it as. So cortisol and diabetes. When your cortisol is high, when you are stressed, it means your insulin is down. So when your cortisol is high, it means you've seen a lion in the jungle or whatever, and it's telling you fight or flight. You need instant energy. So what that cortisol does, it sends glucose to your brain and to your active muscles. That's what its intention is. So it sends your insulin down so that you're not storing sugar in your resting muscles. And it means that your glycogen secretion, which glycogen is your store of sugar, which is in your liver. So that's your more accessible source of energy. So when your cortisol is high, it basically tells your liver, empty out the tanks, empty out the reserves. We need the sugar coursing through our system because we need to go, whether that be to fight or to fly. So why is that not good for diabetes? Well, with diabetes, you want lower blood sugar. You want to moderate that glucose take up by your muscles. So it's not remotely helpful in that situation. If we're talking about cortisol for PCOS, because that's another for women struggling with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So what you'll hear, cortisol is bad for that. Why is that the case? Well, when we understand PCOS is essentially the Epstein-Barr virus attacking the ovaries, then the ovaries grow a cyst to encase the virus to stop it from moving, and that's what that cyst is. Then we can understand, when cortisol is high, it weakens the immune system. When cortisol is high, it burdens the liver. And when you burden the liver, it means the true cause of that PCOS is worsened because the liver will Basically, when it gets overburdened, it splurges out all the toxins, which include those exogenous hormones. They go to your reproductive system. One of the liver's job is to also protect the reproductive system. So when that happens, from the cortisol release, from the adrenaline, which the liver soaks up for you, it then has to release the toxins. They go to the ovaries, and that's what can exacerbate those symptoms as well. So we're starting to paint a picture for how stress is linked to all of these things where you wouldn't necessarily assume it is. We think about cortisol for sleep, which is probably a bit more obvious, so to speak. So when you're looking at cortisol for sleep, then you're saying, okay, when cortisol is high, when you're stressed, melatonin is down. So melatonin is the hormone that's responsible for making you sleepy. So when you're chronically stressed, when you are dealing with I don't know, maybe a breakup, maybe you're grieving, and you've got those chronically, maybe it's work, you've got chronically high stress levels. It could even be something like a WhatsApp message going off, a Teams message going off. That can send a jolt of cortisol through your system. When you get that late at night, it stops you from producing the melatonin you're supposed to produce, and that's why you can end up staying up late. So the the herbs I'm going to talk about, they would actually be best consumed for people with sleep issues, a couple hours before bed, to actually drop that cortisol level so you can start to produce the melatonin to protect yourself, or to get that better sleep. And then we're looking at cortisol for hair loss. So cortisol for hair loss is always an adrenal issue. So of course there could be perming damage or burning damage or that kind of thing, but when hair is falling out, it's generally an adrenal issue. So when cortisol is low, it's a weakened immune system, so you can get autoimmune issues or autoimmune issues like alopecia developing. When cortisol is too high, then protein is destroyed, so the synthesis that's required to actually build strong hair doesn't happen. So you can see those fluctuating levels of cortisol can then start to affect your hair growth as well. So this is just a handful of examples. I suppose when we talk about, or when you hear stress is the biggest killer, or that anxiety is the biggest killer, the reason that comes from is because the adrenaline, once it's released from the adrenal glands, it goes to the brain to charge you up, gives you that bolt of energy. That's where you hear things, when mums can have the strength to lift the car from their child, that's the adrenaline that gives you that super strength. Basically like compound V. It goes to the system, but it also singes your nervous system. It's a toxic substance in that sense. It's like fuel. When it's too much of it, it singes the nervous system. Ultimately, it goes through your body, and then your liver is your sacrificial lamb that ends up soaking it up for you. So the liver is your main healing organ. So when you're thinking about stress as the biggest killer, typically it's because the liver becomes overburdened. Any brain issues you have get exaggerated from the adrenaline release. Any liver issues you have, which anyone dealing with a chronic issue will have a liver issue, gets overburdened from the adrenaline. And it's usually the straw that breaks the camel's back. It also presents the opportunity for viruses to move to the next stage as well. So typically viruses will have a life cycle or stages they move through. I'll get to that, how you can control the stress. But yeah, viruses typically have a stage they move through, and they're waiting for an opportunity to move to that next phase, and that's usually when a period of stress. So whether that's pregnancy, whether that's menopause, whether that's grief, whether that's getting fired from work, that's why you typically see middle-aged women have more chronic issues than men, in my opinion, of what I've seen. So you can really start to understand how that stress ties into any chronic issue. I guess when you're thinking about people dying from heartbreak, it sounds, spiritual or symbolic, but it's actually a real thing. When you're grieving, you have floods of adrenaline and cortisol that get released. And then basically what happens is when you've also got underlying conditions, it basically gives viruses an opportunity to move to that next level. When you're flooding your body with adrenaline, that's when heart attacks become more higher risk, strokes become higher risk. So you can really die from heartbreak. That is a real thing. And I suppose it highlights the importance of managing those stress levels. So before I get into the herbs to help, I just want to touch on a few more things. So the first thing is intermittent fasting. It's very much become a bit of a buzzword in the last, I'd say 2-3 years. A lot of people are talking about intermittent fasting. A lot of people are doing it for everything, for chronic disease, for diabetes, for spiritual healing, for everything. So let's break down what is when is intermittent fasting useful? When is it not? When is it not useful? So to understand, when you intermittently fast, whenever you go 3 or 4 hours without eating, essentially your blood sugar drops, and then your adrenal glands will give you a jolt of adrenaline and cortisol to keep you going. So a lot of people experience 7, 8 hours into a fast. It's like, oh, I feel better than ever. I can go to the gym and I've got that energy and yeah, I feel great. What's actually happening is it's adrenaline fueling you, which is great for that gym session, but not good for your overall health. When people experience short-term benefits from the intermittent fasting, typically it's because they've come off a worse diet. So it could be they were eating burgers and chips and then they started intermittent fasting. So the adrenaline isn't as bad as the fat and sugar combination of the burger and chips. But that doesn't mean it's an optimized way to be. Now, if you're someone that's not dealing with a chronic health issue, then sure, fasting is absolutely fine. But when you're dealing with diabetes, for the reasons I've said above, fasting is not helpful. It's not helping your condition. When you're dealing with anything Epstein-Barr related, anything viral, lupus, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, joint pain even, fatty liver, high blood pressure, these are all situations when you don't really want to be fasting. So if you are dealing with something, the right time to fast would be, if you've got a thyroid issue, again, fasting is not helpful, just in that question, because all thyroid issues are linked to Epstein-Barr. And when you've got Epstein-Barr, it always starts in the liver and will move to the thyroid in phase 2. So that means you need to be eating for your liver to heal a thyroid issue. So if you're fasting, again, that adrenaline is not helping the situation and you're better off eating every 3 or 4 hours with healing foods. I'm not saying it has to be a big meal, but I'm saying it should be something that is a handful of fruit is fine. A fork full of sweet potato is good. These are all healing foods. So even with thyroid cancer, I've just seen someone say that's still the Epstein-Barr virus. It's still the Epstein-Barr virus. So you still want to be eating for the liver in terms of supporting that. Where was I? So yeah, when it is right to intermittently fast would be if you are dealing with a cold or a flu, or you are dealing with something more acute, essentially. So if it's not a chronic health issue and it's something acute, then fasting is fine, because essentially if you're not eating, the virus or the bacteria isn't eating, it's starving it out. You can move into that autophagy state, you can get the stem cells, you can get the ketogenesis, you can get all the benefits that you'll find on YouTube in an acute situation. But when you're dealing with something chronic, which is most things, bloating is another one, don't recommend it, anxiety, brain fog, these are all situations where fasting is not beneficial. Okay, so let's move on to, I guess just before I move on to the herbs that can help, let's just talk about a few natural things. So completely free, you can do them at home, you can do them in the office. Wim Hof's breathing technique is a great option. So it doesn't require you to be anywhere. You can do it in public, well, maybe not in public, but you can do it at home. You can do it in the office, even if you're by yourself. And it's just 20 deep breaths. Hold that 20th breath and then breathe out, repeat 2 or 3 cycles, and you will feel your body switch into your parasympathetic nervous system. So you've got your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. That parasympathetic nervous system is taking you out of that fight or flight mode. You're not as cortisol dependent. So using breathing techniques can be really beneficial just for that reason. If you're thinking about earthing, so earthing has kind of been hippified a little bit, but essentially it's just touching one of the earth's natural surfaces. So that could be walking barefoot on soil, that could be swimming in seawater or lake water, that could even be hugging a tree. It's where tree hugging comes from. That's the physics behind tree hugging, because the Earth's charge is opposite to our charge. So when you are in contact with the Earth's natural surface, it's pulling electrons out. It's pulling the free electrons, the free radicals outside of your body, and it's switching you into your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's lowering that stress. So these are all really good options. Walking is another good one. So, intense exercise spikes adrenaline, but a moderate exercise like walking doesn't. It switches you again into your parasympathetic nervous system. So these are all completely free natural options you can do. Things like yoga are really good. Pilates is really good. These are all completely free options that you can do, that I would definitely recommend even before using the herbs. But all right, let's get to the herbs. So because this is an issue for so many people and it's something that is not really avoidable, you can't just say I'm going to eradicate stress out of my life. things happen outside of you. If it's, as I was saying, a job situation, if it's grieving, if it's family, all of these things happen outside of our control, and we need to have tools to be able to manage that stress. So alongside those holistic techniques, we can definitely use herbs to get that back online. But just before I say that, another aspect of that cortisol issue is that it fatigues your adrenal glands. And when you've got fatigued adrenal glands, that's when you start to get the gut issues that I see a lot of people dealing with. So the bloating, the constipation mixed with diarrhea, the acid reflux, all of these issues come from a mixture of the liver and the adrenal glands basically being out of whack. And that adrenal fatigue comes from excessive cortisol release, and then it becomes too high, then it becomes too low. Cortisol does have a function. So when you first wake up, you do want that cortisol. It's what gives you that get up and go. So it's not just eradicate all cortisol, but we do need to be moderating it. So I'm talking about in specific situations of chronic stress, in chronic anxiety, we do need to be moderating that down. So there's 3 herbs that I really recommend, and that's what we built the bundle around to help people in this specific case, and it does work. So you've got this herb here. So this is one of my favorite herbs, to be honest, because it does so many things, and the people that are usually dealing with chronic stress also have a lot of the other issues this herb helps. So you can see it's a ginseng root. So it's actually ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is the first herb, and it's because it nourishes the adrenal glands. So it nourishes the adrenal glands. It moderates that cortisol release, so it's not just too high or too low. It regulates it. It also supports neuroinflammation on the brain. So one of the effects of that excessive adrenaline surging through the brain is that it can cause inflammation, and then you get neuroinflammation, then you get the brain fog, the anxiety and issues like that. And people are dealing with heavy metals, which I'll touch on a bit later, but that exacerbates the adrenaline issue because it's essentially adding more conductivity to the brain, which you don't want in that situation. So what the ashwagandha does, it reduces that neuroinflammation and helps there. It also increases energy levels as well, so it enhances mitochondria production. So it is that's the battery packs of your cells essentially. So it's increasing energy, it's supporting your adrenal glands, it's reducing neuroinflammation, it's lowering the stress. It's a great herb to start with when it comes to managing and monitoring chronic stress. So the next herb is a lesser known herb, and it's a leaf powder. So this is it's an Ayurvedic herb, and it's one of my favorites, to be honest. I don't love the taste, but I do love its effects. So it's called Brahmi. And Brahmi is it's very similar. It's an adaptogenic herb. It grows new brain cells. It grows new nerve cells in the brain. So again, when you're dealing with that damage to the brain from that adrenaline surging through the system, it helps there. It also helps to moderate the adrenal glands as well, which is definitely what you need. And it really does complement the ashwagandha in terms of creating that the anti-anxiety mix that we're going after specifically with this bundle. Supports the nerves, grows new nerves. And then one of the best complements for Brahmi is it's lion's mane. So you've probably heard of this one before. And the reason why lion's mane is so effective is because it's one of the only herbs, it's one of the only mushrooms in the mushroom kingdom that again grow new brain cells, it grows new nerve cells, it stimulates BDNF. It also reduces neuroinflammation. It also helps to moderate the cortisol as well. So I've just seen someone say taking THC gummies helps a lot easing the cortisol levels. So that's different because the problem is when you use THC, it's toxic to the brain. It's a toxin. So although it feels relaxing, it does also stimulate an adrenaline response. So whenever you have any psychoactive compound, whether that's psilocybin, THC, it does prompt adrenaline to come to the brain. So it's not the same thing. What lion's mane does, this mushroom, as I was saying, it's very similar to the Brahmi, and it complements and rounds out the bundle very well. So when you're using these 3 herbs in unison, you can combine them into the same cup of tea. It creates this really powerful blend that gets the adrenals back online. We see people, even with autism, ADHD, the symptoms improve very quickly. We see people dealing with chronic stress and anxiety kind of get that control back. Even people with nerve pain start to feel an improvement in symptoms as well. concentration, focus, all of these things that tend to go out of the window for someone dealing with chronic stress. This bundle really helps to support it. And then one other herb I also like to add to the bundle is, well, two herbs really, but one herb I really like to add to the bundle is shilajit. So the reason why I like to add shilajit is because it's a heavy metal chelator. So it helps to remove heavy metals from the brain. So I was alluding to earlier, when you have these mercury deposits, these aluminium deposits in the brain, essentially they add extra conductivity. So your brain is electrical, electrons moving through the brain's neurons. So when you've got these electrical charges going across and they hit one of these heavy metal deposits, essentially it causes it to fry your brain. It's a heater in your brain. It can also have toxic residue that can spill off into the brain as well and cause damage. So you really want to break those heavy metal deposits up, and shilajit is a great option for that. So, and then the other thing as well, so when you're really going through and cleansing the brain, if you want to really supercharge that bundle, it'd be black seed oil. So black seed oil goes after the underlying viral pathogen. So I was alluding to it earlier, whenever we're talking about a chronic issue, there's going to be a virus involved. There's going to be a virus going after the liver, there's going to be a virus going after the reproductive system, there's going to be a virus going after the brain with those neurotoxins. So we can't ignore the virus, and that black seed oil is really effective in going after the common culprits. So whether that's Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, HHV6, HHV7, black seed oil is very effective in going after it, shingles even. So when we're looking at nerve pain, when we're looking at that neuroinflammation, when we're going after attacking that underlying cause, black seed oil is a great place to start. So all of those herbs are available on the website. So it's called the Nootropic Brain Boost Bundle. So it's one of our best sellers. It's been there for a little while now, but I just wanted to take the time to go through it and explain what it's for, because a lot of people don't necessarily know what nootropic means. They don't know if it's for, brain fog or nerve pain or anxiety, but it really does attack all of it for the reasons I've explained. And then if you do want to supercharge the results and make it more of an ADHD remedy, then I'd recommend adding the shilajit. If you're dealing with brain fog or joint pain and it's more kind of arthritis-y or fibromyalgia, then that's why I really recommend adding the black seed oil to supercharge those results as well. Cool. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I can get to the Q&A now. We've probably got about 15-20 minutes for the Q&A. Jed, did you want to... I've got some questions that have been DM'd as well, but...
Yeah, so someone mentioned about the A1C being high.
Yeah, so if your A1C is high, I mean, if you can let me know the number and I can be more specific. But if your A1C is high, so anything above a 6.8 would be considered diabetes. Anything I think is a 5.8 is considered pre-diabetes. I tend not to, the difference between a 5.7 and a 5.8 is not much. So to say, well, you're 5.7, I'm completely healthy, and a 5.8, I'm pre-diabetic, and a 6.7, I'm pre-diabetic, but 6.8, I'm diabetic. I mean, these are all just arbitrary numbers. So it's important to understand the spectrum. But if your A1C markers are high, if you're dealing with diabetes, if you're concerned about blood sugar, the first thing you want to do is get off the ketogenic diet they're telling you to use, because it's high in fat, it's high in protein, it's burdening the liver, and diabetes is a liver issue. You want to be eating for the liver, you want to be eating for the adrenals, because that's how you protect your pancreas. That's how you get your insulin sensitivity back. You want to be eating carbohydrates, but not all carbohydrates, not the pastas, not the white sticky rices. You want to be eating your wild yams.
10.
Oh, okay, yeah, so that's diabetic. So, I mean, there's different scales, so it depends if you're in the US or UK scale, but the same advice applies. You want to be coming off high fat, high protein meals, so cutting down the meat, cutting down the eggs, cutting down the dairy. You want to be looking at winter squash, butternut squash, sweet potato, regular potatoes, yams, all of these things. You want to be upping your fruit. Fruit doesn't spike your blood sugar levels in the same way that normal carbohydrates do. So you want to be eating melons, bananas, apples, all of these types of fruits. And then you also want to be using the herbs like ashwagandha. It's very good for getting your insulin sensitivity back. You can also use black seed oil, moringa seeds. These are also really good for getting your insulin sensitivity back. But yeah, changing the diet would be the most important thing. I would say, if we can go through your specific diet and anything that more specifically for you, because that's all quite high level advice and what herbs might work best for you and what supplements and stuff you're already taking. The best thing for that would be to book a consultation. They're available on the website. They're very affordably priced. And yeah, I've seen diabetes quite a lot. We can bring the numbers down quite quickly. So that would be the best option for that. But this live will be recorded, so you can go back and rewind that and listen to that section again if that's helpful as well. Saw someone ask about high blood pressure. If you're dealing with high blood pressure, few factors at play there. That's typically a burdened liver, which means it's not filtering your blood as it should, so it's thicker than it should be. So that means it's having to work harder to move through your blood vessels, which is causing an increase in pressure. It could be cholesterol build-up, so artery plaque, hardened cholesterol in the arteries, which means, again, less space for the blood to move through. It's heightening the pressure. And typically you see magnesium deficiencies when you are dealing with high blood pressure as well. That magnesium deficiency could be from a viral issue, which is leaching magnesium from your body. It could just be not eating enough magnesium. But what I would say for that, you want to be obviously lowering the fats, lowering the sugars so that you're not getting that triglyceride buildup. And then you also want to be using black seed oil is a really good option for lowering blood pressure. Again, the ashwagandha is good for that. Moringa is also good for that, which is also available on the website. Again, those healthy carbs will help with that. So just to repeat them, winter squash, butternut squash potatoes, sweet potatoes. The fruit is also going to help with that. You also can use milk thistle is another really good herb. So that gets your liver back online to get its filtration properties. So milk thistle is the only herb in the world that can regenerate a damaged liver. So yeah, these are, the nootropic brain boost bundle would also probably help with that because there could be some adrenal contribution to that as well. But again, if you wanted to, for all of these issues, I'd say that the best option would be to book a consultation so that we can go through, because it's probably not just high blood pressure is the only symptom you're feeling. There's probably maybe some high blood sugar there. There's probably some dizziness, maybe headaches, maybe some bloating issues as well. It usually doesn't exist by itself. So yeah, we can go through in a detailed session as well, but that's some high level advice of what I would suggest is to bring those markers down. Typically, lowering the fat can bring high blood pressure down very quickly. Green leafy vegetables as well for the high blood pressure.
Can you talk about reducing inflammation in an ASD child, and recommend some herbs, please?
With ASD, unless inflammation is a specific issue in and to itself, then I wouldn't say inflammation is the biggest issue when you're dealing with ASD. It's heavy metals you want to be going after. So there's a buildup of mercury and aluminium in the midline canal of the brain, and that's what's causing the behavioral differences or the abnormal behavior, because when those brain signals are firing, there's metals getting in the way and it's causing it to have to reroute how those brain signals should work. So to get rid of heavy metals, you want to probably switch up your cosmetics routine. So a lot of people are consuming heavy metals from their deodorant. They're getting it from their shower gel, their creams. So Nature's Organics.
New Age Organics.
I always say Nature. New Age Organics.
I'll pop it in the chat.
New Age Organics is a really good cosmetic supplier. Everything's natural. Everything is oil based. You can read the ingredients front and center, and you know everything that's in there. So that's the first step to get heavy metals out there of your routine there. Then I would say you can use herbs like Shilajit is really good for detoxing those heavy metals. Sea moss, which is available on the website, but I don't have it in front of me, is also a really good chelator. Coriander or cilantro, if you're in the US, is also a really good chelator, particularly for mercury. And then you can, if you want to, those are three good places to start and they're available. But if you want to kind of amp up the results, then you can use barley grass juice powder. You can use Atlantic Dulse. You can use spirulina. These are all good for stimulating the heavy metals as well. To be fair, in the ASD child, I'd probably ramp it up. But I've also say the nootropic brain boost bundle that I was talking about at the top of the session is also really good. So that lion's mane, we see amazing improvements, particularly in children. We've seen non-verbal children that can go up to a word count in a matter of weeks on lion's mane, 200 words. We see significant results with for children significant results for ADHD and autistic children with the lion's mane and Brahmi in particular. So I would definitely recommend that bundle, as well as probably ramping it up with the Shilajit, and I'd recommend buying a handful of coriander in some celery juice as well. And then that's what I would recommend for that.
Do you want to go to DMs?
Yeah, sure. So question that I've had quite a lot of recently is thank you, parched. Fibroids is a question that I've had quite a lot of. What can we do for fibroids? So I kind of touched on it earlier, but I just want to give a more detailed explanation. When we're dealing with fibroids, it's usually streptococcus or Epstein-Barr virus. That's the underlying cause. So you want to go after the underlying cause with things like black seed oil, with things like cat's claw. You want to be eating for the liver, because as I was saying before, the liver is when it secretes its toxins, that's when it starts to go to the reproductive system. That's when it can go to the breast as well for fibroids in the breasts. So you want to be going after the underlying Epstein-Barr infection. So licorice root is good, black seed oil is good, cat's claw is good. And then you also want to be eating for the liver, so the milk thistle is also really good. Also,
sorry, is it another question? I've got a question in the chat here.
Yeah, go for it.
How to clear acne and improve gut health?
Yep. So typically, I mean, it's good news. They're the same issue typically. So there's other things that can cause gut health, but typically when I see people with acne and gut health issues, they're dealing with a streptococcus infection. So strep doesn't really leave the system once it gets there; it lives there. So acne is caused by strep, and then that strep basically goes down your digestive tract. It lives in the liver. It weakens the bile. It sits in your intestinal tract, and essentially it causes the gut issues. Of course, there could be some more detail that I'm missing here. That's just from the question. So again, I would always say, book the consultation. We can go through in detail, a full hour, explaining everything, the full history, and we can really specifically target the pathogens. But I would say, when you're dealing with streptococcus, all of your culinary herbs are good. So your parsleys, your basils, your thymes, your oreganos as fresh leaves. You can add them into salads. You can blend them into smoothies. You can brew them as teas. These are all really effective. Your ginger, your turmeric, your cayenne pepper is also really good. Sweet potato, butternut squash is also really good. That's just on the culinary side of things. And then when it comes to the herbs, your black seed oil is really good. So if you can Google this for yourself, black seed oil against streptococcus, and you'll see the results. Cat's claw is also very good. We don't sell that. Lemon balm is also very good. We don't sell that one either. And then, these are all good options for dealing with streptococcus, and whether it's acne, whether it's Crohn's, whether it is even PANS in children, these are all underlying streptococcus issues that can be dealt with food for the most part. So it really doesn't have to be too complex. When you use antibiotics for strep, it's not that effective, because you have a lot of antibiotic resistant strains of strep, and it just makes them stronger. And that's why a lot of people dealing with strep, antibiotics don't work. So that's just something to be aware of. Okay, probably got time for one or two more questions.
Got one on the DM.
Just to let everyone know, probably got time for one or two more questions. Just to say, anyone who's interested in the herbs I've spoken about today, so particularly that Nootropic Brain Boost bundle, that's available on the website, links in the bio. For consultations, I think when people ask me what herb should I take, or I'm dealing with some chronic issue, what herb should I take, I always say the best spend you can, instead of buying the herbs, book a consultation. There's consultations that have herbs included as well. It's the best way to understand what you're going after. Even just knowing what you're going after preps your, mentally, biologically, preps your immune system to be able to produce the compounds to go after that specific pathogen. So for the person who is dealing with acne, if I say you are dealing with strep and you internalize that, it equips your immune system to deal with that strep more effectively, which is why I always say the best thing you can do is book a consultation to really break down, understand, and believe what you are going after, because that really does help your immune system. And that biology of belief is real. It's actually a really good book called The Biology of Belief.
The person who's just asked you about acne just asked you a question about will a consultation cost a lot?
No. What if you're broke? Yeah, I mean, not more than the herbs. So the consultations start from £50, and that's a 30-minute consultation. There are. I want to make it affordable. There's other healers online and stuff, and they'll charge hundreds or even thousands for a 20-minute consultation. So I don't want to be that. I want it to be accessible, and I want it to be the first. I want it to make sense as the first step. So you can afford a consultation and then buy some herbs, or there's an £100 option, which is the consultation with herbs included as well. So we explain what the issue is, and then go through and put a protocol together. I mean, yeah, my background is not the kind of just went straight into naturopathy and then just wanted to open up a clinic. I went the complete opposite way. My background was economics, actually, retrained. And then people would just ask me advice, and I'd give away advice for free when I was just researching and studying, then formalized things, did my naturopathy course, did my master herbalism course, and realized actually what you're learning in the textbooks isn't as useful as what you learn from going to different countries, speaking to people, actually dealing with people with real life conditions and things like that. So I don't want to price people out of the support and healing. That's not the objective here. So yeah, the consultation is very reasonably priced, and oftentimes they're not going over as well. So it's about the healing. It's not about the selling in that regard.
And also, just to add to that, the after bit too.
Yeah, and then it's also, I don't like to leave people to their own devices. When you're dealing with a chronic issue, it's not going to be a 2-week fix. It's probably going to be months. It's building a lifestyle that's sustainable. So this is all part of that. Okay, so yeah, so okay. Another question on the DMs. Someone asking about anxiety. So that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. So when it comes to anxiety, it's probably a mixture of heavy metals, viral neurotoxins, and excessive adrenaline and cortisol. So that's where that nootropic brain boost would be the best thing for that. And then again, you can supercharge the results with ultra pure shilajit and black seed oil. We're just going to do some quick fire ones. Do I recommend apple cider vinegar? No, I don't recommend apple cider vinegar in terms of ingesting it. If you're using it topically for something like foot fungus, then it's a great option. But if you're using apple cider vinegar for weight loss, by ingesting it, you will see weight loss, but you will also see a pickled liver. So it depends what you're optimizing for. And that's what I would say for, so don't let the weight loss fool you into thinking apple cider vinegar is stimulating deeper healing. That's not the case. Are eggs bad for you? Yeah, this is an interesting one. You'll see a lot of people online talking about how fantastic eggs are and how they're this full protein source. And just to be clear, I'm not anti-eggs. I'm anti-eggs in the context of healing from chronic issues. Because if you're healing from a chronic issue, that means you've likely got a herpetic virus in your system, or you've got some streptococcus, or you've got some E. coli, or you've got some staphylococcus. And if you've got any of those conditions, it means that eggs love those viruses, or those viruses love eggs, those bacteria love eggs. So you don't want to be eating for the virus, you don't want to be eating for the pathogen. And that's why I don't recommend eggs. Not for any other reason, it's because of that reason. So for someone who hasn't got any chronic health issues, for someone who's going along fine, hasn't got a viral load, they can eat eggs and it's fine. And that's why a lot of people eat eggs and live till 80, 90. I think we need to move away from this idea that food is just bad or food is just good. And that's the reason why a lot of people can eat certain foods and live to 90 and other people can't. Depends what your digestive enzymes are like. For people who of Northern European descent, they have more lactase than people of African descent, so they can eat more milk. For people, or drink more milk and eat more dairy. For people who have not got a viral load, they can eat raw meat, red meat, and they can eat eggs and be fine. People who have got a viral load, they can't. You'll see the tribes in African regions where they literally just eat raw meat, and the most likely explanation for that is in those indigenous communities where they don't have, toxins, they don't have outsiders coming in, infiltrating, giving them new viral load, then they haven't got the underlying Epstein-Barr virus there. They haven't got the streptococcus there, which means when they're eating those eggs and meat and everything else, it's not feeding the viruses. So it's not causing the same issues in certain people. So that's an important thing to understand. So it's not about a food is healthy or unhealthy. Of course, there are unhealthy foods like, white pasta, for example. White sticky pasta isn't giving you much benefit in any case. So sure, or sweets aren't giving you any benefit in any case. But if you're a bodybuilder without a viral load, then eggs are great, So it's it really depends what your objective is. And when I'm talking, and this is important context, I'm talking about a healing diet, not a performance diet, not a leisurely diet, not a fun diet, it's not a preservation diet even. It's a healing diet. This is for people who are dealing with a health issue. You shouldn't be eating eggs. You shouldn't be eating dairy. You shouldn't be eating red meat. If you eat a slice of steak, is it going to be the worst thing in the world? No, I'm not saying that. But it's important to be aware of what you're dealing with. Okay, and right. Last question. So someone's asked, do antioxidants help for weight loss? Yeah, kinda. It's not the antioxidants' main job. The antioxidants' main job is to neutralize free radicals. And what free radicals do is essentially cause cancer. They cause chronic illness. They cause oxidation inside the body. They cause rusting inside the body, essentially. So it's not for weight loss, so to speak, but typically the things that will contain antioxidants will help weight loss. One, because they cleanse the liver. So your liver is your weight loss organ. So it will cleanse the liver. It will have the other bioflavonoids, and it will mineralize your body so that you can use nutrients. And so if you're not using nutrients, it ends up clogging the liver, it ends up clogging the kidneys. It means your lymphatic system can get backed up. You end up holding water weight, which can also make you put on weight. So yes is the short answer. And a great option for weight loss would be black seed oil. So you can even Google the studies, black seed oil for weight loss. You can also look at sea moss for weight loss. You can also look at ashwagandha for weight loss. These are all really good options for weight loss, healthy weight loss as well, because it's working with the body to do that. We've actually got a weight loss bundle on the website as well, so you can check that out. But yeah, antioxidants alone aren't necessarily for that. Okay, thanks everyone. So that was a good session, talking about stress, talking about cortisol, talking about what you can do to regulate your adrenal glands, support your brain, go after ADHD, anxiety, brain fog. All of these conditions are very much in the wheelhouse of the Nootropic Brain Boost bundle. Just to let everyone know again, you can get that available now on the website. As I was saying before, consultations are available on the website. They are reasonably priced. You don't need to be scared off by the price. And they are all with me personally as well. I don't outsource consultations. They are all personally with me. But for that reason, I only have 30 consultations a month. So it is better to be in there early if you want to be seen earlier. Thank you for everyone who's joined. This will be recorded and posted, so it will be there for you as well. If you want to go back and look again at anything I've said, always good to digest the information twice. But we'll be back on Thursday, I think. Probably more of a Q&A open format. Maybe we'll talk about something more specifically, but we'll see. But yeah, anyone who's got any questions or any health issues they're currently dealing with, or a loved one that is going through something, maybe they're not as receptive to the natural way yet, and I see a lot of that, and you don't want to be too pushy, but you want to get the information so that you can kind of drip feed it into them, then please do send me a DM. Also, we'll be doing stories as well. You can respond to the DMs as well. But yeah, basically just don't be afraid to reach out and ask, because you need to empower yourself with the knowledge, essentially. But cool. Thank you for everyone for joining, and we'll speak again soon.